But first tonight, let's bring you the latest updates on the situation in Baramulla, where remember late last night there was another attack on an army camp. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval briefed Prime Minister Narendra Modi about the situation on the line of control. Sources telling India today that the morale of our security forces is high. They're ready to take on any kind of threat. Let's bring you the latest from Baramulla.
Weeks after the horrific Uri attack, another army camp targeted in Kashmir, this time in Baramulla. 46 Rashtriya Rifles camp was attacked at around 10:30 p.m. Sunday night, and the gunfight lasted nearly 3 hours. In Jammu and Kashmir, to take stock of the situation, Home Minister Rajnath Singh lauded the forces for giving a befitting reply to cross-border terror.
हमारे सेना और सुरक्षा के जवान जो है मुंहतोड़ जवाब दे रहे हैं.
Back in the capital, NSA Ajit Doval briefed Prime Minister Modi about the dastardly attack. Also shared details of the overall preparedness of the Indian Army at a time when retaliatory action is expected from Pakistan.
हमारे एक जवान शहीद हो गए बीएसएफ का, बहुत ही ये दुख की बात है, लेकिन हमारा फोर्सेस का मनोबल में कमी नहीं आएगी.
As India lost a brave heart to yet another cowardly act of terror, two terrorists managed to escape.
Moment, I can't say which group and all those things. Yes, I mean GPS has been recovered from them, a compass has been recovered from them, a wire cutter has been recovered from the place from where they were firing. So it is clear that they have intention to enter inside the campus. They wanted to cut the wire, get in. So they have been timely detected by the men.
The army recovered GPS, wire cutters and AK magazines from the site, making it clear that the attackers were foreign terrorists. Sources in Special Operations Group of Jammu and Kashmir Police said that the terrorist had the support of local sleeper cells, claimed that the police had inputs that two Fidains were hiding in Baramulla. According to the Special Operations Group, the terrorist may be hiding in 5-kilometer radius with the help of their local contacts. Bureau Report, India Today.
And the story we are breaking at the moment, local Special Operations Group sources now telling India Today that security forces have identified the two terrorists who are suspected to have carried out the attack at 46 Rashtriya Rifles. The terrorists Hanif alias Hilal, 23 years old, and Ali, 22 years old. Both are Pakistani nationals. Both of them belong to the Jaish-e-Mohammed, is what we are being told with the very latest. Joining me now to update us on that story and what's happening on the ground, Shuja ul Haq is joining me from Srinagar at the moment. Shuja, tell us more details you're getting on these two terrorists who have allegedly been identified as Jaish terrorists who are behind the attack in Baramulla.
Well, Rajdeep, after this attack, we've been getting reports from various agencies. In fact, we've been pointing out this for a long time, that there are constant intelligence inputs that have been coming that such attacks could take place. There were, in fact, inputs that some of the militants are roaming around in this area. Rajdeep, of late, there have been many infiltration bids that have been reported in North Kashmir, and the security agencies have been worried about the fact that the militant rank and file seems to be swelling in past couple of months, and this was one of the major concerns that recent meetings of the intelligence agencies and the security forces have really taken among themselves. As far as this attack is concerned, there is a suspicion that the two militants who are believed to have been involved in this attack may have been foreign nationals. There are certain intelligence inputs that have been coming that they could be from the Jaish-e-Mohammed outfit and may have been in this area for some time and were trying to launch this attack. Rajiv, let's look at how this entire attack took place yesterday. First gunfire and then massive volleys of grenades and firing took place from all sides. Officially, what the army and the security forces, particularly the police, has said is that the army and the BSF fired at these militants, forcing them to flee. The locals said that there was total chaos, firing was coming in from all sides. But one thing is clear from the official sources who came on record, that from the recoveries it was apparent that these militants wanted to enter the camp. They perhaps wanted to create the same kind of chaos which had happened in Uri. So all these factors are clear. But Rajdeep, one other point that one needs to importantly make here is, because of the unrest that has happened in past couple of months, there has been a constant worry in this intelligence agencies that it could lead to increase in militancy, and that is something that we are witnessing actually happening on the ground.
Shuja ul Haq with the very latest there, telling us exactly what is happening on the ground there in Baramulla. Meanwhile, the Director General of BSF has spoken exclusively to India today while lauding martyr Constable Nitin. He said that it was because of his valiant efforts that such a big attack was averted. Jugal Purohit spoke to the DG of the BSF.
As you are aware, the situation on the western border is quite tense. But I would like to assure you that BSF is all geared up to meet with any challenge. And if something happens, we will give more than befitting reply.
Good to hear that. Sir, last night there was an incident where one of our Jawan was martyred as well. Some injuries happened. Could you tell us what was the attempt, sir?
As per the information which I have been received from my IG in Kashmir, in Baramulla, on the base camp of 46 RR, it's an army base, where BSF was also partly deployed on the morcha duty. Some militants tried to infiltrate and breach the security and enter the camp. But because of the alertness of BSF Jawans, this attempt was foiled. But unfortunately, during that encounter, one of my Jawans got injured and he lost his life. Nitin was a very brave soldier. In spite of his injury, he kept on firing from the morcha. But unfortunately, because of loss of blood, he could not be saved.
So he ensured that they did not enter the...
Precisely. It was because of his alertness that the attempt of the militants was foiled.
So just one last question. Since you are facing Pakistan directly along the IB as well as along the LC, what is the difference that you're seeing in their positioning, in their posturing? A lot of reports are there that they are also gearing up, defensive positions are coming up. What's the sense,
I may not be in a position to comment on that. I don't know. They also are preparing maybe for defense or maybe for something more offensive.
Okay.
But we are ready to meet any challenge.
And so any new steps that you would like to tell us that we are taking towards better border protection?
Actually, we are all the time very alert, but this time we are at the peak of alertness, and all our resources have been geared up to that effect.
Remember, he was all of 24 years old and laid down his life while fighting terrorists in Baramulla. BSF Constable Nitin hailed from Etawah in UP. He was born in 1992. His body today was taken back to his hometown. Nitin is someone who fought for his country and died in battle. Listening to his father speaking out.
फिर फोन लगाओ तो फोन नहीं भी उठाओ, मैं कब अधिकारी ने कब लड़कों ने फोन उठाओ, तब फोन बताई, तब हमने जाली लला मेरे चले।
बेटा चाहिए मुझे, हाँ मेरे बेटा चाहिए, हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए, हाँ मेरे बेटा कब को छुट्टो गया दैया, मेरे बेटा होना हार तो दैया, मेरे 18 साल को नहीं भाव तो।
These are the faceless Jawans in a sense, whose names will be quickly forgotten, but who we need to remember. But first tonight, let me bring you the 10 top developments that have taken place today after that attack that took place last night on a Rashtriya Rifles camp in Baramulla, exactly 2 weeks after what happened in Uri. Our brave soldiers have foiled the terror bid, but sources say that terrorists were from the Jaish-e-Mohammed and have been identified. Let's take a look then at the top 10 developments tonight on that top story.
More than 2 weeks after Uri, another terror attack on Indian forces, this time in Baramulla. But our alert and brave soldiers gave a hard-hitting reply to terrorists. Here are the 10 developments since the terror attack in Baramulla. The search operation has been called off in Baramulla even as tension remained high after the terror strike. From their modus operandi, the terrorists are suspected to be from Jaish-e-Mohammed or Lashkar-e-Toiba. Hours after the terror attack, Home Minister Rajnath Singh said that our security forces gave a befitting reply to terrorists.
हमारे सेना और सुरक्षा के जवान जो है मुंहतोड़ जवाब दे रहे हैं, कोई बधाई के पात्र।
In another snub to Pakistan, Russia backed India's surgical strikes, saying that they welcome the surgical strike and that every country has the right to defend itself. Pakistan calls for an all-party meeting, rejects surgical strikes in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. 2 days after China extends its technical hold on designating Masood Azhar as a terrorist, India says it's ready to give evidence. In the wake of increasing terror attacks, the Indian Army has placed the order for 250 mine-proof vehicles. 2 people injured after Pakistan violates ceasefire in Poonch sector, Shahpur-Kerni area on the line of control. Former President of Pakistan, General Pervez Musharraf, admits that Pakistan has been globally isolated by India. And in a rare display of political unity, Modi's arch-rival Arvind Kejriwal too lauded the Prime Minister for surgical strikes in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Bureau Report, India Today.
But there's tension on the ground even now in Baramulla after the terrorists attacked that Rashtriya Rifles camp, killing a BSF constable. Although the search operations have been called off, sources say the terrorists have been identified from the Jaish-e-Mohammed. The terror attack, remember, took place in the dead of the night yesterday. Let's tell you how that entire operation unfolded.
At around 10:20 in the night, a group of terrorists crossed River Jhelum. At 10:25 p.m, Jawans noticed suspected movement near the 46th Rashtriya Rifles Army camp, which has one BSF company quartered inside. The camp is located only 20 to 30 yards away from the river bank. At 10:30 p.m, 2 terrorists attacked the BSF picket. Within no time, both the parties were engaged in heavy gun battle. The heavily armed terrorists lobbed grenades at the army. The army also retaliated with equal force. In the process, one BSF constable got critically injured. By 11:30 p.m, firing mellowed and the terrorists also began to withdraw. But at 11:45 p.m, the 2 terrorists once again brazenly opened fire, and this time at army picket of 46th Rashtriya Rifle Army camp. At 7 in the morning, during combing operations, a GPS, 1 magazine of AK-47 and a compass was recovered. By 8 o'clock, the search operation was called off. Bureau Report, India Today.
So post Baramulla, I want to raise 5 big questions. Question number 1, should India be escalating the conflict with more cross-LOC strikes? That's my first big question. My second big question, should India now make public video evidence of the cross-LOC strike to end Pakistani propaganda? Question number 3, is dialogue between the India-Pakistan NSAs a positive sign? Question number 4. Why are army camps in Kashmir now becoming soft targets? And final question. Is Pakistan army now more desperate by pushing across even more terrorists? 5 big questions. Shashi Tharoor, who is the Member of Parliament of the Congress, but also importantly, he is the head of the Standing Committee on External Affairs with me. Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, defense expert, also with me. I appreciate both of you joining us. Shashi Tharoor, those 5 questions that I have posed. Let's start question by question. The first question that I posed: should India now escalate the conflict with more cross-LOC strikes, given what we've seen happening in Baramulla?
I think not. First of all, because escalation becomes a slippery slope that rapidly gets out of control. But secondly, because we proved our point already as recently as the 29th of September. We have sent a message across, and I think this operation in Baramulla could well have been planned before the 29th and happened, as it were, because of somebody who had been infiltrated earlier. We should not react, it seems to me, to every provocation. We should now wait and see. If the pattern persists, we always have the right to do again what we have done before. But right now, our message has gone out. I see no reason to up the ante.
So you're saying no reason, you believe there is no reason to up the ante. Do you agree with that, General Prasad? A quick response from you to that?
Yes, I agree with him. There is no need to escalate. We have done what we needed to do. We'll continue to do what we are wanting to do and what we need to do. But we don't want to escalate to unnecessarily go to a war kind of situation. We have repeatedly said war is not the best option for us. But we will combat terrorism, but we will bring terrorists to the books, but we will deal against people who support this. So no need to escalate. We will do what we are doing. We have been given a free hand by the government to do a tactical response at the place and time and date of our choosing. We will continue to do that. But no need to escalate into a bigger issue.
Okay. Let me then come to the second question, which is a very contentious issue now that Pakistan, again at an all-party meeting, Nawaz Sharif has denied that surgical strikes took place, an all-party meeting in Islamabad of Pakistan's political parties. The second question, Shashi Tharoor, is quite simply this. Should India make public video evidence of the cross-LOC strikes? Evidence that may not compromise necessarily our security situation, but would clearly tell the world and indeed public opinion in India and Pakistan that indeed we have the capacity to strike across the LOC.
I'm in favor of India making more details public. I'm not sure about the video evidence because I imagine that anything we show will compromise intelligence. I find it difficult to imagine that it won't, and certainly it will show our own soldiers, which I'd rather not. What I would suggest is that we reveal, for example, the coordinates of the places across the LOC we have struck. After all, the Pakistanis know where they were hit, so we're not revealing anything that the other side doesn't know. But as you know, they've conducted this rather disingenuous propaganda exercise, taking international journalists to various spots across the LOC and showing that life is normal there and that India therefore was claiming credit for strikes that never happened. So the best thing to do is to dispel that propaganda, is to reveal the coordinates and the locations of the strikes that were hit. Video evidence, I think, should not be necessary once we've given that level of precise detail.
So are you saying that we shouldn't be worried about the manner in which Pakistan is trying to push their case that no surgical strikes took place? We've had articles coming out in the Washington Post, in other American papers. The Pakistanis have taken Pakistani journalists and other foreign journalists to the LOC to make their case. You believe, Shashi Tharoor, that we don't necessarily need to make public any video evidence as such?
No, as long as we give the coordinates, I'm sure it'll turn out to be not the places where the Pakistanis escorted the journalists to. But we do need to give something, because CNN, BBC, the various major international outlets have reported the Pakistani line that nothing happened. To some degree, this suits us also, because after all, the Pakistanis can't retaliate against a strike they say never happened. So we're in a peculiar situation where their claiming nothing happened actually means that they no longer feel obliged to retaliate, whereas every confirmation we give that the strikes did happen undermines them. But since now it's a question of our credibility, maybe we should at least give a few coordinates saying these were some of the places that were hit, so that journalists can go and verify for themselves, or at least they can give the lie to Pakistani propaganda.
General Prasad, do you agree with that view? Give details of the coordinates, the exact places where we hit Pakistan, or do you believe all this should remain under the carpet?
Rajdeep, who do we need to convince? We need to convince ourselves, which means the military. We need to convince our government, which means the political leadership, the Prime Minister and the other CCS members. We don't have to prove to anybody else in the world what we have done and what we haven't done. It's entire. If the government of India, which is the CCS, is satisfied with what the military has done, and if the military hierarchy is satisfied with what they have done, we need to prove nothing to anybody.
Okay.
If the world knows what has happened, and sooner than later, everybody will get to know the truth. If the Prime Minister or the Defence Minister wishes to see the video, certainly they should see it. No problem. The military will see it, no problem. Why do we have to convince anybody? I see no logic in trying to convince Nawaz Sharif or Raheel Sharif that we have done it.
Okay.
Damn it all, you will find it out yourself.
I take your point.
Hafiz Saeed has been burying his dead people. So
I
what
take
is the
your
point? No need.
I think you made your point
So
effectively.
long as we and my political leadership is convinced.
Okay. Question number 3. Is dialogue between the India and Pakistan national security advisors a positive sign? Shashi Tharoor, do you believe that the time has come to actually talk at the highest level, or do you believe it's too early, that we actually need to see whether Pakistan is making a conscious attempt to rein in terror from across the border before any kind of telephonic dialogue takes place?
Look, talking is not the problem. It's what we talk about and what messages we convey that matters. I'm actually in favor of the National Security Advisor talking to his counterpart, who in Pakistan also happens to be the de facto foreign minister, Sartaj Aziz. I beg your pardon, he spoke to Mr. Janjua.
Yeah, that's right.
To Sartaj Aziz. But still, the point is that the National Security Advisors, nonetheless, would be the right track, because they are dealing with issues of security. We should keep open channels to avoid unnecessary escalation. As I've frequently said, I believe India's overwhelming priority is economic development. War is not in our interest, and war in any case will drive investors away from our country. So war is really a last resort at every stage, and we haven't reached that stage. We have sent a very effective signal, but we have not bragged about it. We have issued a very calm statement, a very measured statement from the army. We have said essentially that we have no further intentions for military operations, and I think we should stick to that line and therefore show our willingness to talk to whoever on the other side wants to talk. I have absolutely no difficulty in supporting the opening and maintaining of channels of communication between the two NSAs.
Can I then take the next question to General Prasad? General Prasad, third attack on an army in the last 9 months, two major
Can I
ones.
answer this question as well?
No, I'll come to that question, but I want to first get the fourth question from you. Why are army camps in Kashmir soft targets? We've had 3 attacks, one yesterday on the Rashtriya Rifles.
Yeah.
Do you believe that there are intelligence failures, or do you believe that this should be seen as desperation on the part of the Pakistanis to push in terrorists to target the army?
I would answer it differently, Rajdeep. The present concept or the present practical application of our managing to protect our VAs, VPs, logistic camps, bases, etc. need a little relook and need a little rethink. What we are presently seems to be doing is that we have a perimeter defense, perhaps with bunkers and firing positions. We have some perimeter wire, etc. This concept needs to be reviewed, and the review I am suggesting is this, that we need to get out of this. We have a perimeter defense for a logistic base, we have a perimeter defense for any camp or any such organizational sitting there, or an ammunition dump, but there needs to be positions outside this. What I mean is, for example, if outside there are buildings, you can put some people on top of the buildings, you can change the positions now and then. Nobody needs to be told that we have lookout people sitting there. We need to get out of these defensive scenario and occupy positions. If there are no buildings, look for some trees, look for some high ground, look for some vantage points outside, and they need to be changed frequently. So these are minor tactics which the local people must evolve to see that those people who attack are also going to be hit from behind. And therefore, when the firefight takes place, if they're wanting to run away, or like this present Baramulla case, they melted away, they wouldn't have been able to do that. So while X number of people guard the perimeter, another X number or Y number of people must guard it from away, where they can dominate that position. I hope I'm trying to make my position clear on as far as this issue is concerned. But these things will continue to happen, Rajdeep. The terrorists will continue to strike at these bases. They will not strike at the FTLs. They will not strike at very combat troops positions. They will strike at these camps, BSF or whoever else camp is, or logistics dumps or ammunition dumps. But that needs a rechange. That needs a relook at how our deployment is going to be done. And I believe that there are ways to protect these better than what we are doing today.
Can I just take that to Mr. Tharoor?
Question
just
dialogue. If you
just a minute, General Prasad.
Can I come back to dialogue?
No, I'll come to you that later. Yes, Mr. Tharoor.
No. In January, after the Pathankot attack, the former Vice Chief of the Army Staff, Lieutenant General Campos, was asked to address precisely this question that General Prasad has talked about: perimeter security and security of army installations and bases in Kashmir and elsewhere. And what General Campos did was to submit a detailed report with recommendations to the Defence Ministry in March. It has been sitting in the Defence Ministry with no action taken since March, and in September we lost 18 lives. I really believe this is a disgrace, and the government has to conduct an internal inquiry and find out what happened.
One minute, Mr. Tharoor. You're making a very important point. I do not have the Defence Minister, Mr. Parrikar, on this program, but you are claiming that there was a report after Pathankot, which in March was laid before the Defence Ministry, which you are saying 6 months later has not been acted upon. Is that based on information that you have as the head of the standing committee?
I have very reliable sources.
You have very reliable sources that the information has been with the Defence Ministry for 6 months. I want to ask you then the fifth question, and both of you can take
the report and recommendations.
The fifth question is the Pakistan Army now more desperate in pushing across terrorists? Do you believe, Dr. Tharoor, that there is a sense? You said that at the moment you do not believe this needs to be escalated, but there is a belief that there are those in Pakistan now who feel that only an escalated conflict will serve their purpose, and there may be some within this country also who may want such an escalated conflict. How do you respond to those who believe there is a growing desperation because General Raheel Sharif retires in a few weeks from now, and he would like to possibly, before he leaves, try and give the impression that a major strike has been scored? That's the nature of the Pakistan Army.
Look, I think honestly this is a question that the army is better equipped to answer than I am, but my understanding is that over a period of years now, even decades, we've had repeated instances of infiltration of people who have attempted to hit our sites. As recently as August, you may remember, we arrested this gentleman Bahadur Ali, who had crossed across from Pakistan and was caught with weapons, rocket launchers, explosives, and had instructions from Lashkar-e-Taiba to hit our army installations. So there's nothing particularly new about this. This has happened before. We've been able to thwart many attacks, and there have been some attacks we have failed to prevent. The question is, does this imply a greater escalation from their side? Has the frequency, the nature and the severity of these attacks increased by comparison with previous years? I don't have that data. Perhaps you don't either, but the army certainly does. They're in the best position to judge whether there is something qualitatively different about the present climate, and they can recommend to the government accordingly. I don't want to speculate without knowing the facts.
General Prasad, 30 seconds. Do you believe that there will be more attacks because that is the nature of the Pakistani army? After what happened in Uri, they are increasingly desperate, and they will look for targets not just on the LOC but possibly even within the country. Do you see a desperation?
Rajdeep, they are definitely desperate. They're going to get more desperate, and their policy will continue to press terrorism as hard as they can. Let me tell you, Raheel Sharif before retirement doesn't want to become a prisoner of war like people became 90,000 people in Bangladesh. He will not want to go to war and get himself discredited before he retires. What he would want to do is to continue inflicting 1,000 cuts on us, increase infiltration, increase terrorism, try and bleed us elsewhere, whether on the LOC or in the valley or in Jammu or elsewhere in the hinterland. His policy is very clear, and that's the policy of the military in the Pakistan, that keep pressurizing on terrorism, keep supporting terrorism. They do not want to go to war. They know what happens if there is a war. Neither do we want to go to war, but we certainly have to prepare to let him know, whether it's Raheel Sharif or his successor or he himself gets an extension, he doesn't want to be a prisoner of war like what happened in 1971. So let's be very clear, at least I am, as a military man, that they will continue with terrorism. That is their policy. We have to guard against it. We have to fight terrorism. And to fight terrorism, we have to finally look at the military. And the military must understand that if they continue to do it, there is some strategic capability that India is developing, which will unleash at a time which can be seen later in the years.
Can I therefore ask you in conclusion, Shashi Tharoor, a sixth question that I should have possibly posed, which is that is part of the problem that the political situation in Kashmir remains tense, and therefore that becomes even more susceptible to be exploited by Pakistan. And we need to also focus on that, not just on the border, but what's happening within the valley.
Absolutely, that's totally correct. In fact, Pakistan is exploiting precisely that. And from my point of view, we do have to be alert on the LOC, because Pakistan is sending people across the LOC to hurt us, to attack us, but at the same time addressing the genuine concerns and grievances of ordinary Kashmiris who are citizens of India, who want their grievances to be addressed by the political authorities. That is imperative, and that should not be indefinitely delayed.
Shashi Tharoor, as always, a pleasure talking to you. General Prasad, thank you very much for joining me on the show today. We've tried to stay away from the usual tutu meme and bring you voices of people who perhaps offer a little bit more expertise.